Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining in to the Mental Health Warrior. Hope everybody's having a great week. I've had a very busy week. We'll get into that. Lynn, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good. I just came off of a long weekend. It was awesome. So for this weekend, it was Columbus Day weekend, and it's the same weekend as our Armed Forces 5K slash 10K Tri Bridge Challenge. And
Mm.
so what that is that they run. If you're doing the 5K, you go over like two bridges in downtown. But if you do
Mm-hmm.
the 10K, there's three bridges that you
Oh,
go
okay.
over all of them. Which I'm like, I've never done anything like that. Obviously, I walked. I have arthritis, like,
Hmm.
I can't run anymore.
Right.
But, I that was a good time. I did that. I walked the 5K. I went up 2 bridges, and I used to do bridge runs when I was running in Louisiana, the marathon, so we would go over, like, the GNO, the Greater New Orleans Bridge, and there's a St. Charles Bridge, and then one other bridge that we would do, we called it the Bridge Run Series because
Okay.
they were in different, like, parts of, like, New Orleans area. So, but all the bridges here in Jacksonville, Florida, they're like all together, like close by in downtown. So that was super cool. And then I got to do a lot of networking because I set up a tent.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was great. I made some good contacts in the city. So that was my weekend.
Oh, well, I had a pretty busy weekend. On Monday, the car club that I'm part of, the Prince William Cruisers, we went up to the Bright View Senior Living facility. Had about
Hmm.
18 cars that went up there, and we
Oh,
parked
that's
the
right.
cars and showed the cars, and the residents came out. And so that was a lot of fun just to kind of hear their stories and listen to them. And then we sat and had lunch with them. They sat outside with us, and we all had lunch together. And so it was just a great event to kind of give back to the community some and it's nice to see they're like little kids, right? They see these cars
Yeah.
and it brings back memories. I remember when I was in college I had a 57, or I drove this or I drove that. And um and then the little old ladies were flirting with the older guys in the car club because some of the guys in the car club could be in the nursing home living in there. But
Yeah.
that was kind of funny. But it was a good time. As you guys know, AUSA is going on this week up in DC, so I was up there all day today.
Nice.
Went up last night, hung out with Nick from VTT. Drank a little too much. I don't really drink anymore, so I think I had like 3 or 4 glasses of bourbon, which when you don't drink anymore, it kind of it hit me pretty good. But I spent the day with Reads Across America Radio. There'll be postings on that. The show will
Awesome.
come out later. It may be out right now. Because they do recordings and they post them out through the day as it going. So that was a lot of fun to really support them with what they're doing in their mission. And of course, just like you, Lynn, I was able to network and maybe
That's the
get
best
some.
part. Yep.
Yeah, I got some nice
Mhm.
guests. Maybe to come up on the show. I talked to Keith, who is has Washington Tattoo, and it's not a tattoo place. They have a charity where they do music and they donate a lot of time and stuff. And I didn't know where the tattoo came from, and he gave a history about that today on the Music Across America Radio. And that was kind of neat to learn about. When they would close the taverns down in the 1600s, this person would go down and play the music, and so the taverns knew to shut the taps off. And so that's kind of where the tattoo came from. I
Uh,
was asking about tattoos, and he kind of looked at me like I was kind of stupid when I first met him. 'Cause I thought Washington Tattoo. I thought it was a tattoo place.
yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. I got educated a little bit there. And of course, AUSA is a huge event with a lot
Yeah,
of
for
things
those
going
of us
on.
who are not Army, tell us about what AUSA is, because I don't
Well, it's the
know.
Army Association. So the National Guard has
Mhm.
their own association, National Guard Association, and then it's kind of like the lobbying arm of the Army. Well, when they have these big events, of course, in the Army you have all kinds of countries and companies come in and they want to display the best military equipment, and so you had tanks and guns in there, you had drones in
Oh,
there,
that's cool. Kind of like an
and then
expo or convention?
yeah, it was a big expo, yeah, at the expo
Mhm.
center there in DC. And so it's most of the people in there are either in the military, DoD related. So you had the war colleges there, and then of course you had all the organizations. You had TAPS there, and
Mhm.
a lot of programs for veterans. A lot of colleges there that offer courses and things. And of course, Reason Across America Radio was there doing live shows and live spots all throughout AUSA. So it was just a lot of fun, a big event. And it's funny because when I was in uniform, I never went. and
Really?
went to USA, yeah. And then I'm out of uniform, went to
Yeah.
USA. But I was able to, promote my book,
Mhm.
talk about the Mental Health Warrior podcast and kind of what we do here. And so it was just a lot of fun. And it's tiring, right? And so I walked from there to the hotel, from the hotel to the place. It was about a mile, and walked back and forth. But when I got back to the hotel, they couldn't find my bag. I left my bag there, and they had a storage room, and so we we looked for, I don't know how long, to find my bag. They just stuck it in some cubby, but thankfully they didn't lose it. And I was able to find my
That's
bag.
good.
But one thing I want to talk about today is, if you watch my mental health minute, and I haven't done too many here lately. I've just been so busy, I haven't been able to do them. Is I was up in Hall, Massachusetts last week, and I did a book signing at the Hall Life Saving Museum, HULL. And I got to talking to, there's a lot of veterans there, about 20 veterans. A lot of the veterans, well, I was talking to this one veteran, and he was a recovering alcoholic. And he was telling me his story. He drank for 40 years. He was in the Navy, actually. He was a Navy veteran.
Mhm.
And when he stopped drinking, and he was doing the AA and going to the meetings and stuff. One thing that he had to do, and it really, you know, um, not really slowed down his recovery, but it was something he was surprised about, and not really. He had to change his circle of friends,
Yeah.
because they were still
Mhm.
doing the old habits. They didn't support him getting recovery, because a lot of them don't want to deal with their own demons and problems.
True.
And so he was really having a hard time and struggling with that. And I think that's somebody who has PTSD, or somebody who's made, life changing decisions. Is that circle of friends really supporting you? And are you really supporting them? Because if it's not value added and their value subtracted, then you need to make a change.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I know I've shared with you, Cliff, that I'm actually rated for that. My PTSD is with alcoholism, so I struggle with that, to this day. And I have tried to be sober. I'm being sober right now.
Yeah.
I would say 2 months now, a little bit over. But I had a friend visit me this weekend actually, and she's like, "What do I do? Like, who are you?" Like,
Mhm.
because they always know me with a drink all the time. And
Yeah.
she's like, should I don't know if I should have brought you drinks. Like, I went to the store and bought myself drinks, but what do I get you? I was like, I'm good. Like, she goes, I don't like, I wasn't sure if we could be friends still,
Yeah.
because like for some people it's hard, like to separate that, like the alcohol and friendship. Like, we're just friends because we're drinking. No,
Yeah.
I'm friends with people because I actually genuinely like their friendship. And so for me, I don't have to have that alcohol involved when
Yeah.
it comes to hanging out. Like, it is hard, struggling with that sort, with alcoholism and stuff like that, being around it. I went to the VFW on Friday.
Yeah.
And the VFW is pretty much like a
Oh, yeah.
watering hole,
Yeah, it's on. It's on at the VFW.
Yeah. So on karaoke, or no, on Friday, it's karaoke nights. And so we had a great time. We mingled with a lot of older veterans,
Mhm.
actually. So we came in there, and I hate to say it, but we had dark hair. Everyone else had silver hair. When we went in there. So there was one lady who had a photo of her younger self, which was really cool. And we took photos with her, and she was with the Royal Air Force, and they
Oh,
were all
cool.
having their drinks, but I was just still hanging out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's difficult, trying to be with those same friends, because those friends, what the guy was saying is that they can encourage you drinking more. Like,
Yeah.
as you said, you don't even drink as much anymore, but it depends on
Mm-mm.
who you're around. You're probably gonna drink a little bit more,
Yeah,
right?
and,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and I would say most weeks I don't drink at all,
yeah,
and but I don't have a drinking problem, right?
yeah,
I can drink or not drink, it doesn't matter to me. But, every
right,
now and then it's, for me, it's okay to, have drinks with friends and hang out, because I don't see Nick that often, and the VTT people.
right.
So it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. Now, I feel like crap today, so it'll be a long time before I drink again. But hey, whatever. You got to have fun every now and then, I guess.
Right.
But you don't have to have drink to have fun. But I'm just saying.
For me, my goal is not to stay sober. My goal is that when I hang out, then I can hang out and have a few drinks and not just keep drinking or like just
Yeah.
keep, you know what I'm saying? Like for me, my goal is to be able to hang out with friends and have a couple of drinks and say, okay, that's it, I'm done. And for a lot of us, it's a struggle. I
Yeah.
went to AA a couple times in the last few years, and one of the meetings really stood out to me, and they said, "I'm not an alcoholic because I drink every single day. I'm an alcoholic because when I start, I don't know when to stop."
Yeah.
And so that kind of really resonated with me because you could be a weekend drinker, but then when you start drinking, you don't stop.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, so when I'm going through my sobriety journey, it's not really to be sober. It's I started it for health so that I could look good for my 40th birthday, because I'm a girl
Right.
and I'm turning 40. So that was like my main goal is okay, at this time, I want to look like this. And so, in order to achieve that, I need to cut down or stop drinking for a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I will tell you that, and then you can look up, as you go, day 2 for not drinking, day 3 and day 4,
yeah.
the changes that it has in your body as far as your brain, your
Oh, for
metabolism, and
sure.
everything, it's pretty amazing. So somebody's put comments on here. I put my glasses on. So, hey Jason, hey Matthew, and Bobby, thanks for joining in. Yeah, it's funny when you stop drinking, you no longer have hangovers. That's a good way to cure them. But that's and Lynn, kudos to you, for being able to go and hang out with your friends and not drink, because that can be hard. Now, I normally drink to a certain point and then I stop.
Yeah.
And last night I was a little dehydrated. Is probably why I had the same amount of drinks I normally have. Is probably why it affected me more than it should have. Um, but I normally will have 2 drinks and then I'm normally done. I
Hmm.
don't drink more than that. But I do have friends, like you said, that they struggle with the fact that once that alcohol hits them, they don't stop till they pass out.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's almost, I mean, it is a drug, right? So you
yeah,
feel good. You're like, oh, I got that buzz. Oh, that buzz makes me feel so great.
hmm,
Like it feels good. I want this buzz to last forever. And
yeah,
then by the time you're like, oh, I'm buzzed, like you're really drunk.
yeah.
And then you're stuttering or whatever, slurring and stuff like that. But I've noticed a huge difference that I've cut back in drinking. Like my skin is a lot
Hmm.
smoother. My like just the way that the blood flows, the circulation in my body
Hmm.
feels a lot better. And I'm more alert, attentive. I don't have any more of that fog brain.
Yeah.
And it's helped with my ADHD a little bit. I
Oh, I'm
still have
sure.
it,
Yeah,
but like it's not as bad.
yeah,
And I feel happier
yeah.
actually. So yeah, it's actually done a lot for my mental health. Um but
And
like I said, that my whole goal is not sobriety to never ever drink again. It's just for health and to be
yeah.
able to get to that point to just have a couple of drinks.
Well, and here's what happens: the longer that you don't
Mhm.
drink, and this, I used to drink every night, and I stopped doing that. It's it and be and I would have a drink after the boys went to bed, and I would have drink one. Well, first I started out with 1 beer, then it was 2 beers, and then it
Mhm.
was a beer and a scotch or something. And then I just kind of got to the point where I thought I was just drinking too much. A beer and 2 scotch. I don't know, 2 beers and a scotch. I don't know if that's too much or not, but in my mind, I thought it was. And so I just stopped it. And then once you break the habit, you do. I mean, I sleep a heck of a lot better when I haven't been drinking.
Yeah.
My sleep is so much better. And of course, now you can see my eyes are all puffy and everything. That's from drinking last night. So it does have a lot of physical changes in your body when you do drink, and you do have brain fog. I mean, I struggled today. Of course, I have TBI, so that didn't help much. When
Mhm.
I was on the radio with Reach Across America Radio, I had to really concentrate on the conversation and what they were saying, and to have follow up questions and stuff. So I kind of struggle with that today.
Yeah. I still struggle with that too. Sometimes I'll go on the I'll go on the trash talk hour with the boys and I'll zone out because some of them are talking so long and I forget and I'm like, "Oh, wait, it's my turn to talk."
Yeah,
So I'm like, "Wait, what is that again?" And
that
then like
that
I
that always happened to me and Nick last night. We were having a conversation, and Chris
Mhm.
was sitting there. And he had to cue us back in because we both forgot what the hell we were talking about.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah. It
But
sucks when it happens at work.
that's right. There's
Yeah.
always a
Mhm.
balance in life, right? And so you always got to try to find what that balance is and what works for you. Now, I will say that there is risk along with if you've been an alcoholic for a long time for just stop drinking that can have adverse effects. So anybody out there who's listening, and if you are an alcoholic, you are drinking, please consult with your physician before you stop drinking, because it can actually kill you actually,
Yes.
if you are a hardcore drinker. So I would just advise that if you are listening out there and you are thinking about it, stop drinking, please talk to your healthcare provider and get advice for them prior to doing that, because it can have detrimental effects on you also.
As a matter of fact, I couldn't just cold turkey it. I
Yeah.
had to, like, just, like, taper off the drinking. And the VA, issued some sort of pill, and I forget what it was, but it's so that you, like, don't get sick and throwing up all day, to help with the withdrawals. So yeah, you can't, some people cannot. And I've seen people who try to do cold turkey or just don't drink for like a long period of time, like 12
Yeah.
hours is what I'm talking about, hours, and then
Yeah.
they just get super sick and they
Yeah.
can't function. And so yeah, you're totally right, definitely consult with the physician before you think about stop drinking if you drink that
Yeah.
much.
Hey, Joseph, congratulations on your 6 years being sober. It's pretty awesome. The same thing goes along with these opioids out there. Those can be so addicting to people, and that's
Mhm.
a hard habit to kick. I don't know how many of my friends' lives have been ruined by drug addiction.
Yeah. Yeah. I also wanted to put a little um thing out there that Irreverent Warriors, we have like a little group, a support group out there of sober, veterans. And so we do have, like, so we're known for our hikes and our rucks, and we go around town and we stop at bars, and then some people drink while we're rucking, but
Hmm.
it's in a closed container. Of course, leadership doesn't partake in that. Like, we're not and then if we
Right.
see it,
It's a personal
we
choice
cut
if they
it.
want.
If we see it, we cut it. Like,
Yeah.
no, don't do that. But I'm not gonna go out there and say, "Hey, don't drink," blah blah. But there are people who participate in our hikes that are sober the
Yeah.
entire time. So, and I have been doing the hike sober now too.
Yeah.
And yeah. So there are support groups out there that are not the VA for
Yeah.
anybody who's wondering.
Well, and that's great, because then, if you're not drinking, then you have other people that aren't drinking too. So then you don't feel like
Right.
you're, left out or you're standing out or something. I always said, I always volunteered to be the designated driver, because to me, I didn't care whether I drink or not. I can have just as much fun sober as I can drunk. So I was
Right.
always that person. So to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. But it's when you're dealing with PTSD and alcohol or drugs have become your medication, that makes it hard too, because when you're going through recovery and you have those memories that remind you of what caused your traumatic event, your PTSD, that's a hard habit to break, not to go back to the bottle to deal with it. And that's where, like you were saying, having a group or somebody to talk to when you're in that moment, may help to have somebody to call and talk to when you have that flashback, or,
Yeah.
what's going on.
I agree, and I would say that bedtime is the hardest time because
Yeah.
that's when your brain is like running 100 miles and you have all these thoughts going through your brain. And for me, I used to be scared to go to sleep. I did
Oh,
not wanna go to sleep because I would
yeah.
have those night terrors, like,
Mhm.
every single night, at least, like, 3, 4 times a night, I'd just be screaming, so that's what I would do, I would numb everything and numb my mind with alcohol so that I don't have to deal with that, or I won't have to remember if I had night terrors or not.
Yeah.
So, I would say the nighttime is the worst, and like I said, I told you the last episode about how I got with VTT, is I had an
Mhm.
episode at night and I couldn't sleep,
Yeah.
and I needed someone to talk to, and there was nobody around, and so I reached out to the Veteran Trash Talk group and,
Yeah.
just made a post. So,
And that's nice, because,
yeah,
somebody's gonna be up on that page,
yep,
and somebody will chime in and talk to you. Here's one thing here I started doing, and so all the listeners, I want you guys to Google this. Taking honey at night before you go to sleep. That has such amazing effects on your body. And now I take wild honey local to my area because it helps with allergies and other stuff. But one warning, and when you read about it, it'll tell you this: you can't drink alcohol and take honey before you go to bed. It screws your system up because it's two different types of sugars, and your body doesn't know how to deal with it. I made that mistake, and it messed me up for 3 days. Never make that mistake again.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember you telling me that, and it's weird
yeah,
because
yeah, it
they
was.
sell, like, whiskey, honey
Yeah,
infused
no, that's
whiskey,
different
like
because in the process, the honey loses the
ah,
properties.
okay.
So you're just getting the taste of the honey. You're not getting the
But
benefits
not
of the
like
honey.
not raw honey and then, like, drink
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, your body doesn't like it. It's two different sugars. But when you do that, the sugar from the honey feeds your brain while you're sleeping, and you actually sleep better and more restful. Caveat to that: the first time I did it, I had horrific nightmares, and I don't know if it's
Yeah.
just because I slept so hard because I didn't. And I woke up, man, I slept hard. I slept like 9 hours. It was crazy. That has now since gone away, and some people may not have that effect, but I did have nightmares the first time I did it. But of course I'll do it tonight. I didn't do it last night, obviously, because I was drinking. But it makes a big difference in sleep. So if you guys are having trouble sleeping, or you might want to try that, just Google it. Taking honey before bedtime. I take about a teaspoon, but it's made a big difference in sleeping, and I was kind of surprised by that. I don't know.
That's really interesting to know.
Because what would when we were kids, and we get a cold or something, mom used to give us honey and lemon before we go to bed.
Right, I was just thinking that honey and
Yeah,
lemon or, like, honey and tea, lemon tea.
yeah,
But then what if, like, okay, so I lived in the South most of my adult life, and they call it hot toddies,
yeah,
right? So it's a hot drink with, like, whiskey or cinnamon
yeah.
whiskey,
Hmm.
and then they put honey in it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and lemon. So
yeah,
and they're like, "Oh, it'll help you feel better."
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't. There's one time that my wife, she was she was sick, and I heated up peppermint. I was teasing her, but I heated up some peppermint schnapps. And if you ever heated up peppermint schnapps,
Ugh,
it'll clear your sinuses out. And
really?
I said, "Here, drink this." And of course, she just sniffed it, and of course, it cleared the
Uh-huh.
sinuses immediately. But I mean, she didn't. I did it as a joke, but it was kind of funny. Uh,
That's like the eucalyptus leaves, right? And
yeah,
so kind of like essential
just
oils
breathe
or
it
when you
in.
steam it and you breathe it in, it
Yeah,
makes you feel better. So like
yeah.
Vicks Vapor Rub.
Hmm. So I mean, that's just and if somebody tries it, hey, hit us on the message boards and let us know how it worked out for you, or next week when we have the show. We do have a guest on next week, so I'm super excited about that.
Yay.
It'll be a good show. So JJ from Brady United is going to come on, so that's going to be a fun show, and I think that'll be enjoyable. Lynn, what's Reverend Warrior got going on here coming up next couple of weeks?
Okay, so there is a hike every Saturday. If you look on our hike calendar, there's something somewhere. I know
Mhm.
if you're in Arkansas, Little Rock is having one and they're looking for volunteers right now. And volunteers consist of passing out waters and snacks and things like that, or driving a support vehicle in case one of us broken veterans fall out, you know. So
Mhm.
that's another thing is that we don't expect you to walk or rock the entire hike. If you can't do it, we have fallout vehicles for that. So they're looking for that in Arkansas. Next weekend, we have Fort Walton Beach, which I'll be
Yeah,
there. And then they have there's I think there's so many
yeah.
and then next month is Tampa, November 18th. I'll be there.
Okay.
But it's super awesome. I've been going out there and networking with a bunch of veteran businesses, and I just got the support of one retired Master Chief. His name is Keith Edwards, and he runs Marco's Pizza.
Oh, okay.
He's
Nice.
gonna be yeah, he's gonna help donate some lunch to us
Oh,
because
awesome.
lunch is provided. It's
Mhm.
free, so you sign up for the hike, and it's like very minimal. Um, it's $5, but, the breakfast is provided, lunch is free, and then there's an after snack, and there are snacks throughout the whole thing, and
Yeah.
so we couldn't do this without our sponsors because we are a nonprofit, and so all of the funds come from donations, and it goes directly to that hike or that local hike, so Yeah, there's so much going on all the time.
Well, the October, there's always lots of things going on, right? And of course, you
Oh,
got
yeah.
Halloween coming up, and
Mhm.
it's just and you're kind of going out of that summer mode into the fall mode, so the weather's a little bit cooler. For me, it's I'm getting ready to start harvesting the garden and getting it all tore down and stuff, and I have to get my herbs out of the garden and get those dried
Yeah.
and processed
You
and
should
things.
You should see in Florida, it's like it got cold on Sunday, so it was like 71, 72 degree cold, right?
Yeah.
71, 72 degrees, and you see people out with, like, coats, like, I literally was wearing a coat this morning, and it was,
Oh
like,
wow.
72 degrees taking the kids to school, but the thing is, it's, like, not as humid or not as muggy anymore, so the air
Yeah.
is really nice and crisp and really light, and so it feels like fall for us in
Yeah.
Florida. So
Nice.
people are wearing their
Well,
UGG boots and their shorts now.
yeah, and so the leaves here are starting to change. I'm excited
Yeah.
because I have an orange tree, and I forget what kind it is,
Oh, yeah.
but the
Mhm.
oranges actually ripen in the fall, and so I got
Yeah.
about 9 oranges on there. So this year I'm gonna get my first set of oranges from the tree, and so I was super excited about that. Um, so I'll post a picture of it. So I got 2 of them turning color right now. So,
That's
but I've
funny
had
'cause
that
I
tree for 2
forget.
years with that fruit on it.
I forget that we have an orange tree. It's right in the side of our house, and, like, I never go there. Like, it's not even in my backyard. It's on the side of my house, and there's
Yeah.
not even a gate to get to the backyard from from that side, so I never go there, and I remember now that you mention it, I have a tree also. So,
That's Now you have to start eating oranges
yeah.
from it. Start making, frozen orange juice, so and then,
Right.
of course, this year, my blueberry bush, I've had it now for 3 years. I got almost 2 quarts of blueberries off of 1 bush.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was super excited about that. If you guys don't know, I'm a huge gardener. I love gardening. I do all organic gardening. I did grounding gardening this year, and if you don't know anything about that, just Google grounding gardening. So basically, I took a piece of copper and ran it into the ground and coiled it up. The theory is that it allows. I didn't have any problem with bugs this year. I don't use any pesticides in my garden, and I got a lot more produce out of my garden just by grounding it. And so it's
Wow.
pretty amazing. Yeah. So I enjoy that. To me, that's therapy. And I
Mhm.
always, give things to my neighbors. When I produce too many tomatoes, this is something people do a lot because you're always going to produce a lot of tomatoes based on how many plants. But when they start overproducing, sometimes they throw them away or they give them to neighbors. I freeze mine because then I make sauce out of them.
Ah, that's a good
So I
idea.
freeze them and then they can stay in the freezer. Well, then also I noticed that with my tomatoes, that when the plants would drop on the ground and they would stay on the ground over the summer and then throughout the fall, well, the next spring they would start growing. And this year I didn't have any, I didn't grow any tomato plants. They were already growing in my garden. And so what I do now is I pick certain sizes of tomatoes and I freeze them. And then what I do is in the spring I take them out of the freezer and put them in the ground and then they grow. And so that's kind of cool that I do. And then I have a huge seed library that I keep of all my organic stuff, and I share all that with my family and friends. If they want to start their garden, I give them tips with it. It's just something that I enjoy doing. I enjoy doing a lot of outside stuff, and
Mhm.
gardening is something I've always done ever since I was a kid. I don't can stuff because my house, I have solar on it, and then I have the Tesla Powerwall, so I'm always have electricity. I never lose it. So I do a lot of freezing. I freeze a lot of stuff. My vegetables and things like that. So I do some canning, but I don't do a lot of it. I
Yeah,
just don't.
you gotta have a hobby. But I also heard that you have to like, when you're canning stuff, it has to be done a certain way for it to be
Mhm.
properly canned.
Yeah, so
So
you get the
mhm.
canning jars, and you have to replace the lids every time you can it. So you have to sterilize the jars, and depending upon what you're canning, whether it's meat, chicken, vegetables, or whatever you're canning, with your pressure cooker, there's a certain amount of time that whether it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes, once the water's boiling, and then you take them off and cool them, and then they're fine. You just store them just like you would in a can.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to. It's not difficult. It's not hard. You just have to follow the steps, and then you can reuse the jars and you can reuse the screw lids, but you can't the actual lids that seal because the lids have a ring around them, and when you
Right.
heat that up, it seals. Those when you open it, you have to throw those away, and then you just buy new lid
Mhm.
covers for it. But and one thing I started doing this year too is if you have chickens, in the summertime they produce a lot of eggs. You may not eat them all, but you can actually take the chicken eggs unwashed, put them in a jar, and mix it with lime and mix it all up, and then put the eggs in there. Those eggs will store for 2 years without refrigeration.
Like pickled eggs?
It doesn't. No, you leave them in the shell. You
Uh-huh.
don't, and so you put the whole shell in there, unwashed eggs. They have to be unwashed because when the chicken lays the egg, it has an enzyme covering over that egg that protects the egg. And so, like on my sister's farm, when they get eggs from the chicken coop, they don't put them in the refrigerator. They don't have to. But once you wash the egg, then you have to put it in the refrigerator. Well, when you store them in lime water, the lime seals the egg. The lime water seals the egg,
Oh.
but then you can store it for up to 2 years. And so that's something that I experimented with this year. I have some that's in the jar in May, and before I leave to go to Italy, I'll crack them open and see how it did, just to kind of learn it. Because back before we had air conditioner, refrigerators, just what people did. That's how
Yeah.
that's how they lived, and so it's always good. I always tell people this all the time. I always have at least 3 months worth of food in my house. If something happens, a natural disaster occurs, or something goes on, I have a way to always be prepared and always have food. And I grew up in Tornado Alley, so we get tornadoes all the time in Missouri,
Mhm.
even in wintertime.
Mhm.
And we get ice storms, and of course, if you
Oh
go to the
gosh,
country,
I don't miss that.
yeah, it's crazy. So,
Yeah.
you always gotta be prepared, and,
Mhm.
you never know when something's gonna happen. So for me, I always keep, at least 90 days of food, different types of food, available in case something does happen, because you never know. It's a crazy world out there today.
That's so true. And speaking of the keeping food for like 3 months worth, I do the same thing, but not, I don't know, because maybe I'm a hoarder, maybe I just buy too much. But then when the pandemic started, COVID, people are like buying all kinds of stuff off the shelves and all of that. And I'm like, I go to Costco
Yeah.
and I buy everything in bulk. So
Yeah.
I wasn't one of those panic shoppers. So
Yeah,
I
we
couldn't
never ran out
relate
of
to that.
anything during COVID. We always had
Yeah.
toilet paper and paper towels, and
Right.
but I mean, if you don't and you're not used to that, then yeah, you would panic. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, whatever. Within 90 days, generally, if something happens, everything can pretty much be fixed within 90 days, and that's kind of why I do the 90-day thing. And one thing I do, like in Missouri, when we predicted ice storms or something like that, or out here when we have hurricanes, I would make sure that before the storm hit, fill up all the bathtubs. So that
Yeah.
that gives me potable water to flush toilets with and things like that. If I
Mhm.
would happen to, of course, now I don't lose power but you can lose water, and that just gives you another
Yeah,
source
the
of
water
water
gets
to
cut
use.
off.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's always
I
good
we
to be
do the
prepared.
same thing here, and I fill up all the jugs and then all the empty milk jugs we have, I'll fill that up with water. So, yeah, we do the same exact thing, but I remember living in Oklahoma,
Oh yeah,
and that's Tornado Alley right there, and then
yeah.
I would look at the sky. I remember looking at the sky, I like, "Oh, it looks like it's tornado weather, and sure enough,
Hmm.
there's
Yep.
there's an alarm for us to go into our, tornado shelter.
Oh,
So, but
absolutely.
the sky looks so gorgeous. It looks
Yeah.
so beautiful. But yeah.
When you
Mhm.
and you live there long enough, you can just tell, the
Yeah,
pressure system drops or something. You can feel it.
it almost looks like a hurricane sky. So, like a
Yeah.
hurricane sunset, you know how gorgeous that is, the
Mhm.
hurricane sunsets?
What's
So
the sailor saying, with sunrise, red sun, sailor delight, red sunrise, sailor take warning, or something? I don't
yeah,
remember what it is.
something like
I don't know
that.
if I said that right or not, but you made me think about that what is it? What is that?
Mhm.
Red sunrise, sailor
What
delight, red sunset, something else. I don't know what it is. I'm sure
yeah.
somebody out there will probably correct me on that. But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. But up there in the upper left hand corner, I forgot to mention it. That's the Reads Across America um, QR code. You can scan that. It's just $5 to buy a wreath to go in Arlington Cemetery. They do have 4,000 cemeteries across the United States. So if you in a certain area, you can pick where that wreath goes. If you don't want to pick one for Arlington Cemetery, because I am the Arlington Cemetery area, but you can go to that website on that QR code and click and please donate. It's just $5 for a wreath. It's a really great program what they do. Along with that, my podcast is on Reads Across America Radio. They played at 8 p.m. on Friday and 10 p.m. on Sunday. Super easy to find. You just download your favorite app, whether it's iHeartRadio app, Odyssey app, or TuneIn app, and you go spell out wreath, and then you find Reach Across America and click follow. And then not only can you watch my podcast, they have I think 29 other podcasts on there
Mhm.
that they brought in, and so it's super exciting. If you like a copy of my book, The Mental Health Warrior, is limited out there. So once they're gone, they're all gone. That's it. But that's the QR code there. That is the one to, I think that's one to Amplify website. But so that's the publisher of the book. But if you go to my website, cliffordbauman.com, and order a book through my website, I will autograph it. Lynn, you should have got your copy, your autograph copy already.
I actually have it right
Oh, see, there,
here.
there you go.
It has I
Um,
don't know if you can see, there you go.
oh, yep, there you go. Yep.
Mhm,
So I will autograph it and get it sent out in the mail. I got to get some a couple out in the mail tomorrow. But it's a story of of course, obviously of my survival and suicide, but it also other stories about the Pentagon. The Pentagon kind of gets overlooked sometimes about 9/11, and so it's just something to have a written history of. First eye account of what went on. The moments after the plane hit. And so, along with that, I have other stories in the book. You learn something new about me when you read it. I don't talk about that on the podcast because I want you to buy the book. It's really something that to write a book. I think they say like 1% of the people write books and
mhm.
actually get them published, and so it's kind of an honor to have that done. My good friend Bill, he wrote the book with me. And he did an amazing job with it. I am not a writer. He would just come over and do recordings and then he would write it. But he did an amazing job with it. So yeah, please, you can get a copy there. I do have it discounted on my web page 20%. I don't know if Amplify still has it discounted. It was discounted. I don't know if it still is or not. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Before I sign off, Lynn, do you have anything?
So if you're on Veteran Trash Talk Official, VTT Official, we are starting up our book club again,
Oh yeah,
VTT
that's right.
Book Club.
I
And
knew I
guess
was
what our
forgetting
first
something.
book is? It's the Mental Health
Ta-da!
Warrior.
Look
So,
at this guy.
if you're part of our book club, please get your book because we're starting our official is Monday is the official start. So I wanted to put that out in case you
Yeah.
forgot.
I totally
Um,
forgot, went right over my
yes,
head,
so check that
I
out.
was, being at AUSA and being on the radio with, Jeff Pierce there who runs it. It's that's a lot of fun,
Mhm.
doing live. It wasn't really live radio, they were recording it, but that, doing radio show, that's a lot of fun, to get there and do that with them. But yeah, so,
That's awesome.
hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. What were you gonna say, Lynn?
No, I just said that's awesome.
Oh yeah. Hey, and remember, go out, and I don't have any shirts in here, but you can go out to VTT.com and we have a merchandise store out there. You get some great t-shirts. You can get the Mental Health Warrior t-shirt. My favorite t-shirt is Quit Being a Triggered Pansy. I need to buy another
Yeah.
one. I keep giving them away. I just need to buy several of them. Because I go out wearing it, people like it, and then I give them a shirt. But that helps support our mission with what we're doing here. Not only my podcast, the VTT podcast, the Fight Show Club, podcasts, and so we have a lot of great podcasts out there. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great week. Please be safe. And look, if you're in a bad spot or you're not feeling exactly you, pick up the phone and call somebody or join a group, join VTT official or VTT Facebook page. Oh, so somebody always on there 24/7. Just reach out to somebody and have that conversation because in the end, we want you here tomorrow and you are important and never forget that. So everybody have a great week. Take care.